Hi, I'm Will Townsend, Vice President and Principal Analyst with Moor Insights Strategy. I manage the networking and security practices. Joining me today is Kavitha Mariappan. She's Zscaler's Executive VP of Customer Experience and Transformation. Welcome, Kavitha.
Thank you, Will. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, and I'm excited to be a part of this series celebrating 15 years of innovation with Zscaler. And so I want to start with customer experience. Different companies define customer experience in different ways, and I would love to get your take on that and how Zscaler differentiates itself.
Absolutely, love to share. When I think about this organization that Jay and I built about 4.5 years ago. I start from a place of customer empathy and customer obsession, right? That is a key value tenet of a company, and we embody that in every action, activity, and engagement. So if you look at my organization, we're really focused on three top priorities. The first being thought leadership, the creation of thought leadership around zero trust security. Second, around the sharing of best practices around digital transformation and security transformation. And third, really in creating a community for CXOs.
And I know that there's a program called CXO Revolutionaries. And I'd love you to share a little bit more about that and how you're leaning into that.
The focus of the CXO Revolutionaries program was to highlight the key learnings from these leaders, these digital pioneers, who we call CXO revolutionaries. Because many of these leaders had undertaken, in different geos, different size, scale, verticals, use cases, and really kind of taken this challenge on of translating, their business and their IT infrastructure and their security infrastructure and the application infrastructure into the modern world.
CIOs and CISOs are having lots of challenges these days, right? So with disaggregation and cloudification, it's expanding the threat surface. It's also creating blind spots. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, as you've been with Zscaler, what have been some of the challenges and what are some of the resulting changes that have occurred as a result?
Yeah, look, I think, let's start first with, when I joined Zscaler about four plus years ago, right? At that time, we had already seen enterprises and government agencies, and both in the federal government as well as public, state and local government, start this transition to IT modernization, right? Be it a strategic initiative or one that was necessitated by shadow IT, or they had been breached. Everybody was faced with, needing to obviously cut costs, needing to protect the enterprise, the crown jewels of the enterprise, and their users. And so it all really, began with applications moving to the cloud. The second sort of shift really was users using cloud-based applications that were not IT sanctioned, right? So it was really forced and necessitated this change was that applications were starting to modernize and transform. In the past, also, your users are sitting in the office. Your crown jewels, your critical assets are in the office. And it was really critical for IT to protect the enterprise by protecting that network perimeter that existed, that corporate network perimeter that we're all used to. But the minute your applications have started to transition, the minute your users are mobile, the minute you have a multitude of devices that are proliferating, right? User behavior has sort of changed. That paradigm of legacy network security, which is protect the network perimeter to protect the user, the applications, and the crown jewels, is no longer feasible.
It's obsolete.
It's obsolete, right? So I guess the epiphany really was that we are, our users are not tethered to their desks anymore, but we're still deploying a network a security construct that is focused on network security. And that needed to change. So with the application transformation underway, network transformation underway, security needed to transform. It was no longer feasible to have a security construct that was built, decades ago, protecting the new enterprise. At the end of the day, the threat actors are not sitting quiet. They are becoming even more sophisticated. And so it becomes really important for us, to really think about how we address that. And what zero trust zero trust security does, it really focuses on the premise that you cannot attack what you cannot see.
Right.
We wanted to bring together these leaders that are already embarked on these journeys and done these things,
Right.
to connect them with the others who are beginning
To
on
share
that
those
journey.
best practices
Right.
to help people sort of onboard to that zero
Right.
trust.
There are lots of vendors out there that are talking about zero trust, and there's sort of a, almost a, I would say a cannibalization of the term, right?
Or a
What is
bastardization.
I want it to be like politically correct, what I said.
Right.
But yes, and I think it's really important for us, architecture matters, right?
Yeah.
What we really want the role that we really want to play is in educating the market on the core tenets of zero trust architecture. What should they be looking for, right? As they're evaluating the ecosystem of players, solutions that they put together to embark on this journey, it becomes critical. And we talk a lot about the changing landscape in terms of the changing role. Because unlike how traditional IT and security worked, security team focused on security, focused on IT. Nobody needed to talk to each other.
Right.
Nobody knew.
It was silo networking, operators focused on networking.
Exactly.
And now it's all coming together.
Right.
There's this convergence of security and networking that's all coming together.
And who defines the policy? Who governs the policy? Who manages the policy? I mean, these things, for us, it was about breaking down these walls and actually driving that cultural change. And also creating a dialogue, a narrative in the industry that says, we know it's scary. Others have done it.
Right.
And these are the folks to learn from, right? Let's learn from each other. I think part of our Revolutionaries program is also to bring our ecosystem partners together.
You touched on architecture, and I think it's important to note that, we're talking about, 15 years of innovation with Zscaler. What most impresses me is that you've continued to refine that architecture over the years. So as as we've come into containerization and microservices, you've evolved that architecture as well to provide the tremendous scale out. And I've seen some of the stats, and it's amazing the number of transactions that you process on a daily basis, right? It's mind-blowing.
Yes, humbling actually for us. Humbling, and we realize, with great scale comes responsibility.
I love that. Sounds like a Superman movie.
That is.
Or a Spider-Man movie, actually. But I'd like to shift a little bit. I want to talk about inclusion, because this is a very, very big focus for many large corporations. You have a program called WISE. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and what Zscaler is doing.
I'd love to share. As a woman in tech, I've been in over 2+ decades, a woman of color and a mother of 3 daughters. This is to me something that I'm being extremely passionate about my whole life, personal and professional life, right? And to me, representation matters. When I embarked on my early engineering career, between academia and my early career, there was no representation. There weren't women. There weren't women of color. And there weren't other people, from diverse backgrounds, right? And so you enter the workforce and you realize, well, how do I see what that path looks like for me in my career? What is that path that I will have to travel? What is that ladder I would have to ascend? So for me, it's always been a personal mission in the organizations that I've been in and I've led to ensure that we are true as executives and leaders in our belief about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So here at Zscaler, I'm actually also the co-chair of our DI committee, as well as the executive sponsor for WISE. So when I first got here, it was the early days, many years ago. I realized we had all these women who didn't have representation. So how do we make sure we create an environment to hear the voice of this diverse group, right? And so we created WISE with the focus of ensuring that women at Zscaler felt supported, felt that we were starting to build mentorship programs. We were starting to talk about the things that mattered to them in terms of like benefits and all those things, where you're creating a safe space for them to communicate birds of feather. No sooner had we done that, we realized we had so many other groups to help, kind of cookie cutter this model, this framework that we had done. And I'm just so proud and humbled to see that we now have 6 ERGs.
Wow.
So we have, Blacks at Zscaler, obviously WISE. Our Sabor at Zscaler for a Latino group. We have Asia Pacific Islander
Mm-hmm.
a Civic Islander group.
Mm-hmm.
We also have one for veterans
Okay.
at Zscaler and our LGBTQ community, and that's just the beginning of the journey. So
Wow.
it really matters.
Yeah, super impressive. I mean, when I think of, companies that are really doing it right, Zscaler comes to the top. I think that's great, and that's so great for for my two daughters as well, because they're going to be able to clear the path and break through that glass ceiling, and that's what we need to be doing.
Absolutely.
For all groups of people.
And what's really important is in a lot of organizations relegate DEI to their people and culture organizations,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
That is not a checkbox item. Here at Zscaler, and I mean, I'm 15 years company in the making, right? At least I've been fortunate to have been here 4+ years. We truly believe in this.
Yeah.
We truly believe in this through, we train our leaders and our managers to be very conscious,
Right.
Conscious about bias, conscious in our hiring practices, conscious in representation of our conferences that we do,
Mm-hmm.
panels that we run. It's off, you often can fall back into bad practices
Sure.
or just, legacy practices,
Right.
right? If we're all
It's that
about
muscle memory, right? Yeah.
And if we're all about transformation, we need to transform.
But as we kind of wrap our discussion, I want to ask you a crystal ball question.
course.
So I'm just curious. So what changes and challenges are ahead of Zscaler with respect to what you focus on?
Yeah. We are continuous learners in this company.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how high you get, how big you get. Be humble
Right.
and continuously be learning, innovating, and sharpen that saw. Because adversaries are continuing to do that as well.
Yeah, right.
The landscape's changing, trends, mega trends are going to continue to shift. So many years ago, we looked at data center virtualization. We're like, what is that now?
Right.
Cloud, mobility, AI, ML. And these trends are going to continue to evolve. They're going to come at us. We need to continue to make sure that, we are moving, where the puck needs to go.
Sure.
Right? And understanding what that looks like. What is the future of work going to look like? What does the future of the enterprise and the government need to look like,
Mm-hmm,
right? Who would have thought, the role of a CISO would be penultimate today
Sure.
in ensuring that everybody's safe. To me, there's no more exciting time to be in IT and tech and security. This is the moment.
It's a noble cause.
It is a totally noble cause, and I'm so privileged to be part of this journey.
Yeah. Well, it's been great talking to you. I love your energy, and congratulations again on Zscaler's 15th
Thank you so
anniversary.
much.